It's April 2020, and oh no, it's May 3rd. Um, Year is 2020. We're reading chapter 12. Arjuna has just seen the universal form and asked Krishna to come back into his two-armed form, which he much prefers, and he feels much more calm and loving with Krishna in that, I guess format's not really the right word. What would we say? Krishna in that manifestation, Krishna
appearance.
Hmm?
Appearance.
All right, we'll go with that. So now Arjuna starts chapter 12 with a question. Arjuna inquired, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? And Prabhupada's use of the word properly, it's in the Sanskrit. Evam satata yuktaye bhaktastvam paryupasate. Upasate means to worship, and pari apparently means properly. Paryupasate. Evam satata yuktaye bhaktastvam paryupasate. So those are the ones that worship with bhakti. Ye chapi aksharam avyaktam. Or do you like those? Well, the last line is the question. Tesham ke yoga vittama. Which ones do you think are better? The bhaktastvam paryapasate, those who worship you, or in with devotion, or ye chapi aksharam avyaktam. Aksharam is beyond the senses, avyaktam, the unmanifested. And let's read the well, it's a big long purport, but let's go into it some. Go ahead, Matthew.
Krishna has now explained about the personal, the impersonal, and the universal, and has described all kinds of devotees and yogis. Generally, the transcendentalists can be divided into two classes.
One is the impersonalist, and the other is the personalist. The personalist devotee engages himself with all energy in the service of the Supreme Lord.
The impersonalist also engages himself not directly in the service of Krishna, but in meditation on the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested. We find in this chapter that of the different processes for realization of the absolute truth, Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is the highest.
If one at all desires to have the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he must take to devotional service. Those who worship the Supreme Lord directly by devotional service are called personalists.
Those who engage themselves in meditation on the impersonal Brahman are called impersonalists. Arjuna is here questioning which position is better.
There are different ways to realize the absolute truth, but Krishna indicates in this chapter that Bhakti Yoga, or devotional service to him, is the highest of all. It is the most direct, and it is the easiest means for association with the Godhead.
In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord explained that a living entity is not a material body. He is a spiritual spark, and the absolute truth is the spiritual whole.
In the 7th chapter, he spoke of the living entity as being part and parcel of the Supreme Whole, and recommended that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. What verse was that in the 7th chapter? In the 7th chapter, he spoke of the living entity as being part and parcel of the Supreme Whole, and recommended that he transfer his attention fully to the whole. Maybe he's referring to 7 begins with Krishna saying, these 8 elements come from me, earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then the next verse says, the living entities come from me. Also, they are the superior energy. So it's not like one verse. It's kind of the whole chapter 7 is saying that. Then again, in the 8th chapter, it was said that anyone who thinks of Krishna at the time of quitting his body is at once transferred to the spiritual sky, to the abode of Krishna.
And at the end of the 6th chapter, the Lord clearly said that of all yogis, one who always thinks of Krishna within himself is considered the most perfect. So in practically every chapter, the conclusion has been that one should be attached to the personal form of Krishna, for that is the highest spiritual realization.
Read some more. I was turning my phone off.
Nevertheless, there are those who are not attached to the personal form of Krishna. They are so firmly detached that even in the preparation of commentaries to Bhagavad Gita, they want to distract other people from Krishna and transfer all devotion to the impersonal Brahma Jyoti.
They prefer to meditate on the impersonal form of the Absolute Truth, which is beyond the reach of the senses and is not manifest. And so, factually, there are two classes of transcendentalists.
Now Arjuna is trying to settle the question of which process is easier and which of the classes is most perfect. In other words, he is clarifying his own position because he is attached to the personal form of Krishna.
He is not attached to the impersonal Brahman. He wants to know whether his position is secure.
The impersonal manifestation, either in this material world or in the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord, is a problem for meditation. Actually, one cannot perfectly conceive of the impersonal feature of the Absolute Truth.
It's an interesting sentence. The impersonal manifestation, either in this material world or in the spiritual world of the Supreme Lord, is a problem for meditation. Heather, we're reading the purport to the first verse, chapter 12.
Awesome. Thank you. Sorry I was late. I had an allergic reaction.
Okay. We're glad you're alive.
Thanks.
And we're almost at the end of the purport. Okay. A problem for meditation. Why would that be a problem? Impersonal conception. Why is that a problem for meditation?
Maybe there's not much to hold on to.
Yeah. Nothing to meditate on. It's kind of just a procedure of, well, it's not like this, and it's not like this. So you're just trying to push all kinds of material conceptions out of your mind with nothing really solid to hold on to. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, wow, Prabhupada's putting words in his mouth. Therefore, Arjuna wants to say, what is the use of such a waste of time? Arjuna experienced in the 11th chapter that to be attached to the personal form of Krishna is best because he could thus understand all other forms at the same time, and there was no disturbance to his love for Krishna.
Should I read?
Oh, did you find it?
Yeah, this important question asked of Krishna by Arjuna will clarify the distinction between the impersonal and personal conceptions of the Absolute Truth.
Okay. I find this hilarious. I mean, you guys weren't laughing with me, but I just find it so funny that Prabhupada is saying, Arjuna wants to say, what is the use of such a waste of time? But because it's such a formal circumstance or something, because it's Bhagavad Gita, he's just trying to be, I don't know, formal or something. But Prabhupada just wants him to come right out. And okay, Arjuna's question was, which are considered to be more perfect? Those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? So text number 2, Heather, go ahead, read the translation.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on me, on my personal form, are always engaged in worshiping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect.
Purport, Matthew.
In answer to Arjuna's question, Krishna clearly says that he who concentrates upon his personal form and who worships him with faith and devotion is to be considered most perfect in yoga. For one in such Krishna consciousness, there are no material activities because everything is done for Krishna.
Elijah, we're in chapter 12. We're reading the purport of text 2. A pure devotee is constantly engaged. Sometimes he chants. Sometimes he hears or reads books about Krishna. Or sometimes he cooks prasadam or goes to the marketplace to purchase something for Krishna. Or sometimes he washes the temple or the dishes. Whatever he does not let a single moment pass without devoting his activities to Krishna. Such action is in full samadhi. Heather, text 3 and 4.
But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engage in the welfare of all, at least achieve me.
At last achieve me.
At last. I did that
You did
yesterday.
that last night too.
Yeah.
Was that you that did that last
Yeah,
night?
it was neat. It must be the first letter, last letter thing that I'm just doing.
Uh-huh. Okay. Such persons at last achieve me. Okay, so it's a slow go. Text 5. Matthew.
For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied.
I like the music in your background.
He's trying to see how high he can sing.
It's soothing. But if your mind is attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. In the purport, Prabhupada talks about worship of the deity in the temple is saguna worship, for the Lord is represented by material qualities. But the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. Oh, and here's the crude example that used to be really prevalent. Nowadays, I don't know if people would really get this. Elijah, did you find your way in there?
Yeah, I just don't know where you are in the purport.
The second paragraph.
Okay. A crude example may be given here. We may find some mailboxes on the street. If we push our letters in those boxes, they will naturally go to their destination without difficulty. But any old box or an imitation which we may find somewhere but which is not authorized by the post office will not do the work.
And let's see, Heather, I think.
Similarly, God has an authorized representation in the deity form, which is called Archavigraha. This Archavigraha is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord.
Matthew?
God will accept service through that form. The Lord is omnipotent, all-powerful. Therefore, by his incarnation as Archavigraha, he can accept the services of the devotee just to make it convenient for the man in conditioned life.
Okay, yeah, Prabhupada uses this postbox analogy to describe deity worship. And of course, nowadays, how many of you have ever put a letter in a post office, in a mailbox. Those old mailboxes. Yeah.
all the
It-
time.
Yeah. Yeah, I still mail letters.
Uh-huh. But in a downtown mailbox, like we have our little mailbox
Oh
out in the
no, yeah, I guess I put them in my mailbox. I check it to the post office.
Yeah, but he's talking about those boxes in America, the red, white, and blue. They're big metal things, and you open up this thing and drop your letters in, and then you close it up, and it falls in there, so no one can reach in and steal the mail because that's a federal offense. It's a real big deal. The mail was like a great big thing. That was the internet back in the day. And Prabhupada was totally locked into writing letters. He sent letters all over the world before he came to America. He was trying anyone that showed any interest at all in anything that looked anything at all like they might be interested. He would write to them and say, I am Bhaktivedanta Swami. I am the founder of the League of Devotees and the chief editor of Bhakti Godhead magazine. And he would like make up this whole list of, titles to himself. Meanwhile, he's just sitting there in, that tiny little room in Vrindavan with no money, hardly eating at all, washing his clothes in a bucket. I think maybe he had like 2 sets of clothes, and they were worn so thin. One of his friends mentioned they saw him, and he felt sorry for him and said, let me buy you some clothes. And that was just before he came to America. So the clothes Prabhupada wore to America were just a gift from somebody. It was really close. It was really a life and death poverty kind of situation. And yet he would write these letters, and he could write well, he could speak well, and try to get the attention of world leaders. And so he was mailing out, and that was his main expense, was postage. So he was very much connected with this analogy. You put it in this box, someone else might make a box and paint it and make it look just like that one. But if it's not connected to the postal service, that mail is not going there. So if someone just invents their own deity without following the procedure, you can go and give your mail to that in the way of prayers, but it's not going to Krishna. Of course, if you're just praying to Krishna, Krishna will hear you. But he was all about that. There is a procedure to deity worship. And that is what this Saguna worship is about. He talks about that in the first paragraph toward the bottom. There is evidence in the Vedic literature that worship may be Saguna and Nirguna. And guna, usually in the Gita, when we say guna, we talk about the 3 modes of nature, the 3 gunas. Gunas means qualities. Sa means with. Nirguna means no qualities, only spiritual qualities. So Krishna is Saguna. He has qualities. Deity worship is using, the form of the Lord, though represented by material qualities such as stone, wood, or oil paint, is not actually material. That is the absolute nature of the Supreme Lord. So if someone follows the procedure, then that deity is like authorized. It's connected to the postal service. It doesn't mean it has to be anything elaborate also. Like when Dhruva was instructed, Narada Muni, go to sit by a river and pray with this mantra. He also instructed him, make a deity out of mud. So he just got some clay from the bank of the river and put it somewhere, and he made a form of the Lord. And that was his deity. Saguna, something with qualities, something to help hold our attention. All right. So whose turn is it? Maybe it's Garrison. Do you know where we are in the third paragraph?
So for a devotee,
Yep.
so for a devotee, there is no difficulty in approaching the Supreme immediately and directly. But for those who are following the impersonal way to spiritual realization, the path is difficult. They have to understand the unmanifested representation of the Supreme through such Vedic literatures as the Upanishads, and they have to learn the language, understand the non-perceptual feelings, and realize all these processes.
Non-perceptual feelings. There's a catchy
Where,
phrase.
Hare Krishna, where are you actually reading? From which one?
I was wondering what that number I saw flashing up there. We are.
Yeah, I just been listening to you because I didn't want to interrupt. I just joined on the phone today because my internet is bad and I don't know why. So I was just listening to you guys. Where is?
We're in chapter 12, and we
Oh,
are
okay.
reading the purport to text 5, and we are
Okay.
and we are in the third paragraph. And
Okay.
the next time around, you'll be after Garrison.
Oh, okay. Or I can, yeah, either that or I can just listen. But okay, sure.
No, we need to hear you once in a while.
Okay.
So back to Heather.
I'm sorry, I just lost that again. What's the sentence that we're on?
Well,
This
we
is
read
not
about,
very easy.
yeah, we read about the non-perceptual feeling.
Yeah, this is not very easy for a common man. A person in Krishna conscious engaged in devotional service simply by the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, simply by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity, simply by hearing the glories of the Lord, and simply by eating the remnants of foodstuffs offered to the Lord, realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily.
Okay, let's pause there. I'm still hung up on that phrase, non-perceptual feelings. Do you guys think how that's like? I don't know if Prabhupada's making fun of them or what.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of,
Thank
Matthew, you're a doctor, have you ever heard of a non-perceptual feeling? Is there such a thing? Yeah, and that's,
Yeah, very hard to understand. Yeah.
but then he says in Krishna consciousness, just a regular simple person can easily make progress by, under the guidance of a spiritual master, by offering regulative obeisances unto the deity. So having a procedure, here, just do this. Come here at 7 o'clock every morning or sometime, just, you have some structure. He's talking about sadhana bhakti. You practice some sadhana and you hear about Krishna and you take prasad and you can realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead very easily. Okay, go ahead, Matthew. Now you can read on.
Which sentence is it again?
There is no doubt.
There is no doubt that the impersonalists are unnecessarily taking a troublesome path with the risk of not realizing the absolute truth at the ultimate end. But the personalist, without any risk, trouble, or difficulty, approaches the Supreme Personality directly.
Garrison, or no, Elijah, sorry. Elijah, then Garrison, then Suma.
A simple
Okay.
appears in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is stated that if one ultimately has to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this surrendering process is called bhakti, but instead takes the trouble to understand what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, and spends his whole life that way. The result is simply troublesome.
Therefore, it is advised here that one should not take up this troublesome path of self-realization, because there is uncertainty in the ultimate result. The living entity is eternally an individual soul, and if he wants to merge into the spiritual whole, he may accomplish the realization of the eternal and knowledgeable aspects of his original nature, but the blissful portion is not realized.
By the grace of, oh, sorry.
Yeah,
No, it's
you're
your turn.
Go ahead, Suma.
Oh, okay. By the grace of some devotee, such a transcendentalist, highly learned in the process of Jnana Yoga, may come to the point of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service. At that time, long practice in impersonalism also becomes a source of trouble because he cannot give up the idea.
Heather.
Therefore, an embodied soul is always in difficulty with the unmanifest, both at the time of practice and at the time of realization.
Every living soul is partially independent, and one should know for certain that this unmanifested realization is against the nature of the spiritual blissful self. One should not take up this process.
For every individual living entity, the process of Krishna consciousness, which entails full engagement of devotional service, therefore, is the best way. If one wants to ignore this devotional service, if one wants to ignore this devotional service, there is the danger of turning to atheism.
Thus, the process of centering attention on the unmanifested, the inconceivable, which is beyond the approach of the senses, is already expressed in this verse, should never be encouraged at any time, especially in this age. It is not advised by Lord Krishna.
Prabhupada's just really feeling it in that verse. This is his favorite subject matter.
Does anyone else's Gita not have a period after that sentence?
Mine doesn't.
Mine does.
Mine does.
What's that? What's the question? Sorry.
Oh, I was asking, there's no period after this last sentence I just read. I just noticed.
You got the orange book, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, text 6 and 7. Suma.
okay. We're just reading translation or the shloka? No shloka, right?
Just the translation, yeah.
Okay. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death.
So after that doom and gloom purport from the previous verse, saying there's uncertainty, there's a risk of becoming an atheist, and then even if you take up bhakti later on, you have a hard time giving up the idea of impersonalism. So it's just troublesome all the way, all around, troublesome. Then in this one, Krishna says, but if you worship me, then I will be the swift deliverer from the ocean of death, ocean of birth and death. And in the purport, Prabhupada quotes from where is it? It's that first Sanskrit verse in the Varaha Purana. This verse appears, and then there's the Sanskrit Garuda Skandam Aropya Yatichcham Anivarita. That the purport of this verse is that a devotee does not need to practice Ashtanga Yoga in order to transfer his soul to the spiritual planets. The responsibility is taken by the Supreme Lord himself. He clearly states here that he himself becomes the deliverer. A child is completely cared for by his parents, thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to other planets. Rather, the Supreme Lord, by his great mercy, comes at once, riding on his bird carrier, Garuda, and at once delivers the devotee from material existence. So there's a painting in the old Bhagavad Gita. It won't be in the ones that you have. It's in that old Macmillan one. And I wish they had all of those paintings in those. But it shows Krishna riding on the back of Garuda, pulling a devotee out of the ocean. The devotee has a long sika and is extending his hand, and Krishna is extending his hand to him. And at the end of the chapter of the purport, close to the end, simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, a devotee of the Lord can approach the supreme destination easily and happily. But this destination cannot be approached by any other process of religion. So Suma read, and let's do
Did you just read the purport? I mean, so far you were reading.
I just skimmed through it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now here we'll read text 8.
Do you have the picture, Heather?
Yeah, I just went up and picked up the other Gita. Here's the picture. Whoops.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Nice.
Thank
Cool.
you.
I was just on a phone call with Garuda this morning.
Oh, okay.
Garuda Prabhu.
Yeah, I hope they come up
Rainbow
with-
Garuda?
No, the Harvard Garuda, Dr. Bird.
Oh, nice. Graham Schweig.
Yes.
Dr. Bird, yeah. Okay, yeah, I hope they come up with some kind of peaceful settlement between the BBT and about, which version of the Gita.
Yeah.
It is really like, even among the books that we have here, there are differences. It would be nice to have everything consistent.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lawsuit.
What's that?
There's a lawsuit going now?
Oh, I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't know.
Let's not get into that now.
I just want to remember Krishna. Let's read Bhagavad Gita.
Pulled from the ocean by Krishna riding on the back of Garuda. And last time we went through this, we talked about the two different kinds of mothers. He mentions a child is completely cared for by his parents, and thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to other planets. Rather, the Supreme Lord, by his great mercy, comes at once, riding on his bird carrier, Garuda, and at once delivers the devotee from material existence. So Krishna takes charge of his devotees, helps us along. So last time we went through this, we talked about the two different kinds of mothers, the cat and the monkey. Maybe Matthew was here for that one, but anyone have an idea where this is going?
The cat is like a vicious killer, really, and they pick up a kitten in their mouth very gently so they can have these like claws, and they carry the kitten in a nice way. But the monkey, the baby is kind of like on his own. The baby just has to like cling to the mother and hold on for dear life as she swings about the trees.
Yes. Yes. So there are different brands of devotees who argue over which is better. Should we be like monkeys or should we be like kittens? Which kind of mother do we want? So we're strongly on the kitten program that we want to pick us up. And here he is. He's saying, I do this. I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. If you look at the Sanskrit to text 6 and 7, Yetu sarvani karmani, mai sanyasya matpara, ananyanaiva yogina, mam dhyayantu upasate. Okay, that was the first verse saying, those people who surrender everything to me, who are always thinking of me, worshiping me. Then 7, Tesham aham samudharta. So Tesham, to them, aham, I, samudharta. Samudra is an ocean. Samudharta, the deliverer. Samudharta, mrityu samsara sagarat. So I'm the deliverer from the mrityu is death, samsara, you know what that means. The cycle of birth and death, and sagarat means the ocean. Bhavami na chirat parta. So na chirat. Chirat means a long time, so it won't be a long time. Maya veshita chetasam. Mayi, unto me, aveshita, fixed chetasam, of those whose minds. So this is similar to what we read in chapter 9, where Krishna said, those who are always thinking of me, I bring them whatever they need, I protect whatever they have. And so he's just carrying it a step further here. If you're always thinking of me, I'm going to come and carry you to your final destination. You don't have to practice Ashtanga Yoga. All right, so whose turn is it to read text 8?
Is it me?
Yeah, let's try.
Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live in me always without a doubt.
Wait, all of these purports are so good. Let's read this one.
One who is engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service lives in a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord. So there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from the very beginning. A devotee does not live on the material plane. He lives in Krishna.
The holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. When he offers Krishna food, Krishna directly accepts these eatables, and the devotee becomes Krishnaized by eating the remnants.
Suma, are you still with us?
Oh yeah. I am. I didn't because I can't see. I don't know after whom I am. Still, I don't know. But one who does not engage in such service cannot understand how this is so, although this is a process recommended in the Bhagavad Gita and in other Vedic literatures.
That was really a cool purport. And I think Elijah, 2 sentences, the beginning, one who is engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service lives in a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord. So there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from the very beginning. So as Prabhupada was explaining in the previous purport about how the impersonal path is not very safe. There's no guarantee. It's troublesome from beginning to end. And so now here he's saying, when you have a direct relationship with Krishna from the very beginning, when you're engaged in his devotional service. In this verse, he's explaining how to do it. Just fix your mind upon me, engage all your intelligence in me. Thus you will live with me, thus you will live in me always, without a doubt.
Is that the beginning of like the moment that you start devotional service? And well, I guess it's just the moment you start devotional service. It's not necessarily just in this life. It's the moment that you start devotional service. So when you're born in this life, even before you become a devotee, it was already the beginning. Is that correct?
Oh, well, okay. So you're saying if someone was a devotee in their previous life,
Well, I'm just saying it starts at the beginning, so that would be the beginning of your devotional service and the beginning. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking?
Yeah. Was
I
I
couldn't.
not coming?
Yeah, I couldn't hear you at all.
Oh, shucks. Okay. You're saying if someone is a devotee in their previous life, is that the beginning?
No, what? Yeah, well, what I was saying is, I mean, the beginning of your devotional service, I mean, could be in another life. Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost what my question was.
No, it's the beginning is the beginning. And I think even if one falls away, we could say Krishna is still watching out for his devotees, even when they fall away. And I've met devotees who have fallen away, and they said they could never escape from Krishna. Krishna was always, they would try to get away, but they would just keep seeing Krishna everywhere. They would try to get him out of their mind, and they go to the most bizarre places and find devotees. Krishna would turn up. They felt that Krishna was always in this relationship with them. And then the second sentence, a devotee does not live on the material plane. He lives in Krishna. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord are non-different. Therefore, when a devotee chants Hare Krishna, Krishna and his internal potency are dancing on the tongue of the devotee. He's saying all this really, it seems like really simple but encouraging stuff, things that we've heard over and over again, but it's really in his element here. This is his favorite topic.
Mhm.
And here's Krishna backing him up just so he can speak his mind. So let's see. Whoever finished off the purport, I think it was Suma. You only had one sentence. So read text 9.
Okay. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me.
Okay, so now he's going through, let's see, how many verses? 3, 4, okay. These 4 verses he's going to explain. Here's what he's already said, here's what I want you to do in text 8. Always think of me, engage your mind always in me. But if you can't do that, let's see, text 9 was like, what would we call that platform of bhakti where you're spontaneous?
Raganuga.
Raganuga, yeah, thank you. And what are we in now? Sadhana bhakti. So in this verse, he's explaining sadhana bhakti. So read the verse again, Suma.
Okay. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me.
So that's where we are at. We have a little
Mhm.
glimpse. Yeah, I love Krishna. This is really cool. I want to make that stronger. And so that's what he's saying here. If you're not there yet, that's where I really want you to be. Then engage in sadhana bhakti, that regulative, read in the, like Heather read in the purport, bowing down before the deity in a regulated fashion. He used that word, regulated. You have some discipline, some schedule that you follow. So that's really helpful for us. Oh boy, really nice purport. Next time through, we got to read this one. Let's move on. Text 10.
Sorry. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage.
Okay, so if you can't practice sadhana bhakti for some reason, you can't become like what we would call a devotee, chanting 16 rounds, doing sadhana, then all right, you have a job, give some money, donate something. Or you have a skill, use that skill to help build a temple or something, supply food for the temple. Oh man, this is such a good purport too. This whole chapter. How's everybody doing for time? Should we read? It's
Okay,
not a
now
lot.
that you brought it up in 3 minutes, I'll go in 3 minutes. So I didn't want to disturb in the middle.
Right. Well, let's read this purport then. Go ahead, everybody. Heather, Matthew. Is that right? Heather read
Which
the
verse again, 9
Yeah.
or 10?
10.
Okay. One who is not able even to practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga under the guidance of a spiritual master can still be drawn to this perfectional stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 55th verse of the 11th chapter.
One should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. There are many devotees who are engaged in the propagation of Krishna consciousness, and they require help.
Garrison.
Is it?
Oh, sorry. So even if one cannot directly practice the regular principles of Bhakti Yoga, he can try to help such work. Every endeavor requires land, capital, organization, and labor.
Uma.
Okay. And labor. Just as in business, one requires a place to stay, some capital to use, some labor and some organization to expand, so the same is required in the service of Krishna. The only difference is that in materialism, one works for sense gratification.
Is Heather still with us? I don't see her. Go ahead, Matthew.
Same work, however, can be performed for the satisfaction of Krishna, and that is spiritual activity. If one has sufficient money, he can help in building an office or temple for propagating Krishna consciousness.
Or he can help with publications. There are various fields of activity, and one should be invested in such activities. If one cannot sacrifice the results of his activities, the same person can still sacrifice some percentage to propagate Krishna consciousness.
This voluntary service to the cause of Krishna consciousness will help one to rise to a higher state of love for God, whereupon one becomes perfect.
I heard a presentation. It was a fundraising event for the Temple of the Holy Name. And the guy doing the fundraising, he said, when you give your money to something, your heart will follow. You're gonna be watching that. What are they doing with my money? And he said, so give your money to help build the Mayapur temple. Your heart will be in Mayapur. It was really good. He did it really good. And one of the things he said, when this is over, everyone here will have one regret only, that they didn't give more.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hi, Krishna Suma.
Bye.
So,
Bye. Take care.
so we can do all of these things on all these levels. We can be this person here who is working for Krishna, and we can also be the one that's doing the sadhana. And maybe sometimes we'll be the person who's always thinking of Krishna, can't get Krishna out of their mind. Like the gopis who were saying, Krishna's left us, he's gone off to Dwarka. Well, if he can live without us, we can live without him. We'll just stop talking about him. Yes, we'll stop talking about him. And then they just go on talking about how they're going to stop talking about him. And then they're going to say, well, we can't stop talking about him. We can't get him out of our hearts. And the whole time, as Elijah read in that purport, that one who is a devotee of Krishna has a direct relationship with Krishna, always from the very beginning. Krishna is directly connected in their life. There's Sharita.
Oh yeah, I've been here for a few minutes.
Yeah, I saw your name up there. We're about to read text 11. Are you going to join us in reading?
Okay, sure.
I kind of lost track of whose turn.
I only read one sentence, so this is mine.
All right, so go ahead, Garrison. Sharita, if you're ready, you'll be after Garrison.
If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness of me, then try to act, giving up all results of your work, and try to be self-situated.
Okay, so here he's saying, if you can't serve the devotees, if you can't serve my cause, then serve somebody's cause. Help somebody. Just give up some of your things and don't be so greedy. Find a good cause and support it. Krishna likes that. So text number 12, are you ready to read, Sharita?
Sure. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind.
So he says, if you can't give your things, if you can't help others, then cultivate knowledge. But really, cultivation of knowledge will bring you to the point of giving up all of your things and helping others. So you might as well just start helping others. Okay, so that's the end of that section. Now the next, I think there's only 8 more verses in this chapter. Yeah. Now Krishna is going to explain, since Arjuna asked, which do you consider better? Now Krishna is going to explain, these are the kind of people that I really like. So go ahead, Heather. 13.
One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination. His mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me.
Let's just read through these last verses and then we'll come back and read a few of these purports.
He for whom no one is put into difficulty, and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me.
My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains, and not striving for some result, is very dear to me.
One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me.
Did we skip 17?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, that was my fault.
No.
No, it's my fault.
Do you want me to read 17?
But Elijah likes to be a scapegoat, so go ahead. He's a jolly scapegoat. Go ahead, Sharita. You could read 17.
One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, and who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things. Such a devotee is very dear to me.
Just like Elijah. Neither rejoices or grieves. No, Elijah read the one about one who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, and I guess Garrison just got excited and said, well, we'll just skip them then. All right, one more verse. Heather.
Those who follow the imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me.
All right. So do you see a theme in these last 8 verses? See any repetition of points, things that Krishna likes in people? Anyone, anything?
Always remember Krishna, never forget him.
Yeah, that was mentioned at the last one, and there he put 2 varies on. These people are very, very dear to me.
Equipoise and equanimity.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. How many times do you see that?
Being detached.
In just about every verse, there's some reference to that equipoise. Heat and cold, happiness and distress, fear and anxiety. And I like that one in 16, not dependent on the ordinary course of activities. It's like when we're doing things and then something goes out of sequence. Some people just really freak out. But just to have that understanding, oh, Krishna's got this. And if you can stay calm in that, then you can help the situation. But if you panic, you're only going to make it worse. Anything else in there?
Following the devotional path.
Where was that? That was the last one?
Mhm.
Yeah. He who follows this imperishable path of devotional service. Imperishable path. As compared to the other path, which he said was full of trouble. Ye tu dharm amritam idam. Amritam means nectar, or it also means imperishable. Yatoktam paryupasate shraddhadana matparama bhaktaste tivame priyaha. All right, so let's go back to 14, and somebody read the verse. I think Laura left off. She was the last to read, so Matthew, read the translation of 14.
You mean Heather?
Yeah, Heather. What did I say?
Laura's not here.
Oh, duh, yeah. She's
One
limited.
One who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor, and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me.
Nice to have this Sanskrit memorized. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara samadukha sukha kshami santushta satatam yogi yatatma druddha nishchaya mayarpita mano buddhir yomad bhakta same priyaha. And yeah, we memorized these a long time ago. And that's like our job description. This is what we are working towards. Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha. It's got my name in there. Maitra, Mitra. Maitra karuna evacha. Nirmamo nirahankara. And so each of these words, you can just meditate on them. Nirmamo, nothing is mine. Nirahankara, free from false ego. What will I be like without false ego? When the false ego comes up, you just think, what will it be without this filter. Who am I really? Nirahankara, Samaduka Sukha Kshami. Then there's that equipoise again. Being equipoised in happiness and distress. So let's read the purport. Go ahead, Matthew.
As mentioned in the previous verses, wait, that's not it. Okay. Coming again to the point of pure devotional service, the Lord is describing the transcendental qualifications of a pure devotee in these two verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances.
Nor is he envious of anyone, nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. He thinks, this person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds.
Boy, that's a big one. Doesn't become his enemy's enemy.
His enemy's enemy.
Go ahead, Garrison.
So it is better to suffer than to protest. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.8, it is stated that te nukampam susamikshamano bundatva etvatma kritam vipakam. Whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks it is the Lord's mercy upon him.
Sharita.
He thinks, thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far, far greater than I am suffering now. So it is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord that I am not getting all the punishment I am due.
I'm just getting a little by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is always calm, quiet, and patient, despite many distressful conditions.
Devotee is always kind to everyone, even to his enemy. Nirmama means that a devotee does not attach much importance to the pains and trouble pertaining to the body, because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body.
He does not identify with the body. Therefore, he is freed from the conception of false ego and is equipoised in happiness and distress. He is tolerant and he is satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Supreme Lord.
He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. He is a completely perfect mystic because he is fixed in the instructions received from the spiritual master. And because his senses are controlled, he is determined.
That seems odd. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. That sounds kind of a contradiction. What's going on there? I wonder if the editors made a mistake on that. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful.
Could it be, people who strive to achieve things by, worshiping certain, my favorite term, demigods, etc., etc. He just accepts what comes, devotee.
I think possibly it's like just don't over endeavor. Like if you try to do something and you're running into obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, that to take kind of that as a sign to maybe do a different thing.
Oh, I get it. I don't know, for some reason I was reading this wrong. He does not endeavor much to achieve something. I was thinking like something which would normally take great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. But it's like, no, he just doesn't endeavor to achieve anything which would be very difficult. But I don't know, Prabhupada sure tried a lot of difficult things.
He had Krishna right there helping him.
Yeah. But I guess that's what's meant. Like on your own behalf, you don't try.
Mm-hmm.
But for someone else, for Krishna's service, I will try doing something just ridiculously impossible. Oh, and speaking of something really big, oh yeah, I gotta send that off to the other group too. Um, the devotees book distribution has taken a hit because of everything being closed down, but the devotees being, just trying to find a way to make things work. They've been going under a systematic procedure of calling up all of their contacts, all of the people that they've met out on the street, calling them up, how you doing? Have a friendly little talk. And then, oh, by the way, we are doing this, we're trying to get these books out to help counteract inauspiciousness in the world. And people were glad that a devotee gave them a call in the midst of their loneliness sitting at home. And they said, sure, I'd love to do that. So then the devotees take payment, they get their address, they ship the books off. And from there in Prabhupada Village, it was a presentation Vaisheshika gave. And he said the New York team is there in Prabhupada Village, and they showed a picture of Mahotsaha with a bunch of books loaded up in the back of a pickup truck or something, going off to the post office to mail them out. And it said they sold like 96 sets of Srimad Bhagavatams and so many thousands of other books, just by calling people up. And they have this Rishi set, which is 7 books. It's a stack of books like that, and like $50 or so. Nectar Devotion, Bhagavad Gita, First Candle Srimad Bhagavatam, Science of Self-Realization, and a few other books. They call it the Sapta Rishi set. Sapta means 7, the 7 rishis. And so they're getting people to buy those. And so Vaisheshika, he thinks really big. This sentence here does not describe him in his service to Krishna. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. He's always endeavoring to do something outrageous, and he's pulling it off. He showed pictures of the little kids from his temple, kids ages 8 through 15 that like to go on book distribution. And so they started calling people up. And how can you turn down a kid? And so they showed a little video clip of a kid talking to someone on the phone, selling them a full set of Srimad Bhagavatams. So he said these kids are selling books, their parents are selling books, and coming up in the month of September is the date of Bhadra Purnima. Now, according to, there's this verse in the Vedas, it says, if you give a gift of Srimad Bhagavatam to someone during the day of Bhadra Purnima, then you get all of these kinds of blessings. And so they're using that as an impetus, like, this is a good day to give a donation of a Srimad Bhagavatam. If you would like, we want to facilitate that. It only costs you this much, $200 or $300 with the shipping and everything. And so he said, on that day, we are trying to line up. He said, we want, and I forget the number he gave, like, I don't know, maybe 10,000 sets of Srimad Bhagavatams, maybe more, maybe 50,000. When I saw it, I was like, that's a lot. So if you remind me, I'll send you the link so you can watch that presentation. But he was saying, tell everybody about this Bhadra Purnima program. We will give you materials so that you can share it with those people, so you can line it all up. And when you hear about that, it's contagious. There's a purport somewhere where Prabhupada talks about bhakti is like a river. When you see that river flowing, it pulls you into it. You can't help but being pulled into that river of bhakti. So when you see devotees working hard and you want to help out just a little bit, then you get pulled into it and you just get dragged along and you're floating on down to Krishna. And it's as easy as that. So that's what we just read about in those verses. If you can't think of me always, practice regulated devotion to practices, and thus you'll develop a desire to achieve me. And if you can't do that, then support the cause. And if you can't do that, then support some other cause. And if you can't do that, then cultivate knowledge. But better than knowledge is renunciation, because renunciation is the goal of accumulating knowledge. All right. Let's see. Garrison just read, and I just got excited about that. Went off on that tangent. So who is next? I think Sharita. Do you see where we are?
He is a completely perfect mystic. Is that where we are? I think so.
He is not swayed by false arguments. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. He is a completely perfect mystic because he is fixed in the instructions received from the spiritual master. And because his senses are controlled, he is determined. He is not swayed by false arguments because no one can lead him from the fixed determination of devotional service.
Furthermore, the Lord says that such a devotee is very dear to him, for the Lord is always pleased with his activities in full Krishna consciousness.
Let's see. Is that right? Are we out of sequence?
Did I read something different? Where are we at?
He is fully conscious that Krishna is the eternal Lord, so no one can disturb him. All these qualifications enable him to fix his mind and intelligence entirely on the Supreme Lord. Did you find that? We're almost at the end of the purport.
Yeah. Such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulative principles of devotional service.
Furthermore, the Lord says that such a devotee is very dear to him, for the Lord is always pleased with all of his activities and full Krishna consciousness.
Okay, 8:20. How's everybody doing? Shall we read one more?
We can read one more.
Is that all right, everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Elijah, read text 15, the translation.
He by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety is very dear to me.
All right, so what's a good example of this? You probably won't get it just from my question, but the description of the tree. The tree, even though it's very thirsty, never asks anyone for water. And even though someone is cutting the tree down, the tree continues to give shade to the person, the very person that's killing it. So the devotee always serves, devotee is always humble, doesn't get angry. So Krishna likes people to be like that, which sometimes people hear this and they say, are you kidding? That just sounds like you got to be really dumb to be like that. And yeah, sometimes people are really dumb that are like that. But there's a higher level. Someone who is really, really elevated can be like that. So yeah, let's read the purport. Go ahead.
A few of a devotee's qualifications are further being described. No one is put into difficulty, anxiety, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such a devotee.
Sharita, go ahead.
Since a devotee is kind to everyone, he does not act in such a way as to put others into anxiety. At the same time, if others try to put a devotee into anxiety, he is not disturbed.
It is by the grace of the Lord that he is so practiced that he is not disturbed by any outward disturbance. Actually, because a devotee is always engrossed in Krishna consciousness and engaged in devotional service, such material circumstances cannot move him.
Generally, a materialistic person becomes very happy when there is something for his sense gratification in his body, but when he sees that others have something for their sense gratification and he hasn't, he is sorry and envious. When he is expecting some retaliation from an enemy, he is in a state of fear, and when he cannot successfully execute something, he becomes dejected.
A devotee who is always transcendental to all these disturbances is very dear to Krishna.
Okay, well, I can really relate to those last two sentences. We become happy when there is something for our sense gratification in our body. And when we see that others have something for their sense gratification and we don't, we are sorry and envious. When we are expecting some retaliation from an enemy, we're in a state of fear. And when we cannot successfully execute something, we become dejected. Okay, yeah, it's not just other people, but yeah, we feel like that. Devotee who is always transcendental to all these disturbances is very dear to Krishna. So being in Krishna consciousness has kind of taken the edge off of some of those feelings. We can face them philosophically and kind of soften their blow, but they still affect us. But we are making progress. Krishna is helping us along. All right. Hare Krishna. Shall we end here?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Boy, I look forward to this all day long.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really
me too.